So we talked about Mendel's laws before, and we talked about how everything he studied was dominant recessive, and it was really lucky on his part that he happened to study tall, short, wrinkled, round, green, and yellow peas because they were all dominant recessive traits. But in real life, and you probably already figured this out, not all traits are dominant recessive. So today we're going to talk about inheritance patterns that do not follow Mendel's laws. And basically what I'm going to expect you to do is I'm going to give you a situation on a test about blood type, about skin color, about sex-linked traits, something like that. And I'm going to expect you to be able to set up a Punnett square and figure out probability of the offspring. But the Punnett squares for complex traits are a little bit tricky. We don't just use big and little letters anymore. So you're only using big and little letters when we do dominant recessive. All the things we're going to learn about today will not be big letter, small letter. Okay. So, Mendel worked with these peas. By the way, do you have this PowerPoint?
Yes.
Yes, you do. Mendel worked with these peas, and there's always just two outcomes, and one outcome overpowered the other, which was simple dominant recessive. It might start with this slide. Yeah? Okay, incomplete dominance. The first one that does not follow the rules is called incomplete dominance. So the example I got here is a red flower and a white flower. When you cross the red flower and the white flower, you get a pink flower. The pink flower shows up because red is dominant and white is also dominant. But this is a little bit tricky for kids. It's incomplete dominance. So neither one of those colors is overpowering the other color. They're blending. And the blend in this case is this. The red gene says, make red pigment. And the white gene says, I don't know how to make red pigment. So by default, it's white. And when you take something that's making some red pigment and some I don't know how to make red pigment, you get pink. Because there's not enough red being made to make it red, and there's still some red being made, and it's being mixed with the white, and so it turns out pink. So here's what that would look like if you were writing them dominant recessive. However, we don't actually write it this way because white is not recessive. Is red covering up white? No, it's not dominant recessive. So we're going to write the genes like this. A red flower is 2 big R's. Actually, this is wrong. A white flower is going to be, let's fix it. Not this. A white flower is going to be R, and it's going to have a prime here, and another R prime. That's white. Fix that on your slide. So what will a pink flower be? R and then R prime. Did I write any of them as a lowercase letter? No, they are not recessive. They're both dominant. So when you set up the Punnett square, you're going to set it up like that. If you cross a red flower and a white flower, you cross 2 big R's and then 2 R primes. These are white flowers. What color are the offspring? They're all going to be pink. What happens when you cross 2 pink flowers? Set it up on your paper and figure it out. What's going to happen when you cross 2 pink flowers? 1 red, 1 white, and 2 pink. So I'm going to give you the terminology they're going to use on your test. When you cross 2 phenotypes and a third phenotype shows up, it's incomplete dominance. When you cross 2 phenotypes and a third phenotype shows up in your offspring. So I crossed red and white, 2 phenotypes, and a third phenotype, pink, showed up in my offspring. Alright, moving on. Here's what that looks like. Red and white made 4 pink flowers. Pink flowers crossed together makes red, white, and pink. By the way, the 2 original plants are called the pea generation. Those are the parents. The F1 is referring to the first generation of offspring. And F2 is when you take two of the first generation of offspring and cross them together to make the second generation. Okay, next. So that was incomplete dominance. Next one is codominance. Codominance is when you have two alleles and they're both dominant and they're both expressed, but instead of mixing, like a third phenotype shows up, they're just both expressed equally, but they don't blend. Okay. Can you think of an example of this? Blood type. Yes. Blood type. So A and B alleles for blood type are both dominant. So when you have them both, you have type AB blood. You don't have a mixture of A and B together like we saw with the flower color. It's just you have A and B. A and B are also dominant to O, and O is recessive. So this falls under two different categories. Blood type does. The first category is codominance, meaning they're expressed equally but separately. And the second category that you're going to see blood type is called multiple allele. Multiple allele is when you have more than one letter. Typically when we work with Punnett squares, we have one letter, right? Like R and R prime, or big B and little b. When you've got multiple allele, you've got more than one letter. So we have A, we have B, and we have O. Oh, no. That's a dihybrid cross. Those are two different traits. We're talking about the same trait having more than two letters that represent it. Okay, so codominance. I know where you guys were going with the black and white fur. Dogs are a special exception. We're going to talk about dog fur color in a minute. But have you ever seen a black and white spotted chicken?
Yeah.
It's like a chicken, and it almost looks gray, but it's got little speckles all over it. It's like salt and pepper chicken. And that's a result of codominance, the black and white feathers. Okay, so the next one is called pleiotropy. Pleiotropy is where you have one gene. Now listen carefully. This is one gene that affects many phenotypes. So the examples I have for you here is like dwarfism. It's also called achondroplasia. By the way, achondroplasia is a dominant trait. So what happens is it's a dominant trait. So if you have it, you express it even if you only have one. So those people who are dwarfs have that dominant trait for achondroplasia. But it's not like they just have short legs or just short arms or something like that. They have that one gene affects all of their body size, right? So everything on them is smaller because that one gene is controlling many phenotypes. If you have achondroplasia, dominant gene, and you get two dominant alleles, if you're homozygous dominant for that, it's deadly. You won't survive birth.
Two dominant?
Yes. If you're homozygous dominant for achondroplasia, it's lethal.
How is it different from like heterozygous?
So if you're heterozygous, you have one dominant and one recessive, and that recessive allele is a normal gene and you can survive, but you're a dwarf. And so all of us, since we're all normal size, we're all homozygous recessive for that gene. And yeah.
Why does it kill you?
That's a good question. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know what.
More like a blend because like.
No. If you have two dominant traits for achondroplasia, that's it. You don't even survive infancy.
But how does the other gene like super small? Yeah.
Okay, the next one, gigantism or acromegaly. I don't know if gigantism is dominant or recessive. I'm not sure. But if you have it, like Andre the Giant, you guys saw the picture on the first page, right? A lot of the features there, they're connected to one gene. They get that one gene, and then there's a whole bunch of things that are large. The bones, all your main bones are bigger. The only problem with this is it's hard on your organs, because your organs are supporting a much larger body, and so your heart, typically people who have gigantism, or even if the heart is enlarged, it's still functioning like to support a much larger body, so it's harder for the heart. So here's achondroplasia, dominant inheritance, but it's pleiotropic, so we're not talking about just one specific characteristic. This is a whole bunch of characteristics controlled by the one gene. Still looks like a normal Punnett square. So this is somebody who's a dwarf, marries someone who's normal height. 50% of their kids are dwarfs, 50% are normal height. If two dwarfs marry each other, then the first probability is 25% of their zygotes will die. Okay, 50% will be dwarfs, but two dwarfs, because it's a recessive trait, two dwarfs can have a normal-sized kid. Of course, you probably saw that on like Little People, Big World. They've got Zach, is that his name? Who's little, and then his brother, who's normal size. Forgot his name. Nobody saw that show? All right. This next one is really cool. It's called epistasis. Epistasis is where one gene controls the expression of another gene. One gene controls the expression of another. So what we're going to look at here is coat color. Actually, I want to talk to you about coat color in dogs. I think it's the next. Let me see if I got it on the next slide here. All right. So we have two genes, E and B. E determines whether or not you express your coat color. B determines what coat color you have. Okay? So follow me on this one. You have a dog that's got little e's. Two little e's will mean you will not express your coat color. So no matter what is over here on the coat color, you don't express it. So if a dog has two little e's, they're a yellow lab. Okay? If a dog with little e's has two little b's for coat color, their nose is brown. If they have a big B for coat color, their nose is black. So a yellow lab with a black nose does not express fur color but has genes for black puppies. A yellow lab with a brown nose does not express fur color but has genes for brown puppies. So for example, this yellow lab right here, if you bred it to this one over here, well, really either of these, that have expressed your coat color, then all the puppies will express their coat color. If this is a homozygous dominant, if this is like this. If the second gene is like this, for example, and you breed these two dogs together, you're going to get some yellow labs with black noses and some black labs with black noses from the same litter. If you breed this dog, take that off, to this, then you would have yellow labs with brown noses, assuming this second letter here is a little b. assuming it's that, you would have yellow labs with brown noses, yellow labs with black noses, black labs with brown noses, and black labs with black noses, all in the same litter. Isn't that cool? Yeah. Questions on epistasis. So it's when one gene controls the expression of another. Yeah. Yeah, I might put a question on the test that says, like, some fur color or whatever is epistatic. The first trait, epistatic, means that you have two genes. The first one, which is the E's in this case, controls whether or not the second one shows.
So when you say the gene is epistatic, is it that is being controlled by another gene, or that is a gene that controls another gene?
The gene that controls another gene.
Okay.
It's a whole situation,
Okay.
right? So in the case of the dog fur coat colors, your second gene that you have, where'd my pen go? Your second gene that you have here is your coat color, okay? But you don't show that coat color unless the other gene says to. So that's what epistasis is. This first gene says, do not show fur color. That's what the recessive means. Same with this one. So because it says do not show fur color, the default is a lab without color, which is yellow.
Will recessive always be do not show? Or?
Yes.
Okay.
Do not express that gene. So then the dominant epistatic gene would be express whatever that gene says. So we've got two situations. Here it's saying express the coat color, and the coat color is brown. This one's saying express the coat color, and the coat color is black. This second spot is blank because this could either be a little b or it could be a big B, and either way it would still be black. You guys understand that? All right, that's epistasis. Moving on. Polygenic inheritance. This is where you have one trait. So this is basically the opposite of pleiotropic. We said pleiotropic was when one gene controls a whole bunch of traits. Now it's a whole bunch of genes controlling one trait. And anytime you see a phenotype that doesn't have a definite two things, it's probably polygenic. So hey guys, what are all the eye colors in humans? Brown, blue,
Purple.
green.
No, there's a purple eye color, and you don't grow body hair besides on your face.
So great.
All right. So
Yeah, you don't have a period.
I mean, that sucks though.
so the point is, okay, the point is that with eye color, you were not able to just list two features, right? You had to have a list that was longer than two. So eye color is polygenic. What are all the skin colors? You look around, is there more than just two skin colors? Yes. So skin color is polygenic, meaning since we have a range of phenotypes, from all the way from super, super, super white, all the way to super, super, super dark, all the colors in between on skin color, it's a polygenic trait. It's controlled by more than one gene, and this trait and many other polygenic traits can be influenced by your environment. And I'll show you some examples of that in a minute. But so polygenic inheritance is when you have one trait that's controlled by more than one gene. You get a whole range of phenotypes. So I know it's not, well, my circles are still there. I know it's not really on here, it's not all that common, but if I set up a Punnett square for you, it would have 64 squares, okay? Because skin color is controlled by 3 different genes. And if I took two people who were similar to me, right, like right here, they have medium color skin. If I take those two people and I cross them, it's a 1 in 64 chance that I could get a very, very white child. from 2 medium brown people. There's a 1 in 64 chance that you could get a very, very dark child from 2 medium brown skinned people.
Why 64?
Because it's 64 possibilities. The majority of the possibilities fall right here. So when I do these 3 genes and all the combinations, there's 64 different combinations. Only one of the 64 results in an extreme phenotype, which means you have to get the recessive for all 3 genes, or you have to get the dominant for all 3 genes. And so the more mixed they are, recessive, dominant, the 3 genes, you get in the middle. So most of the time, 2 medium brown people will have kids who are medium brown. But there is a possibility to have a very, very white child and a very, very dark child. And I will tell you, they had on the news more than once either 2 brown people or a brown person and a white person that had twins. And one of the twins come out with blue eyes and blonde hair and like super light skin, and the other one came out dark with dark curly hair and dark eyes. So yeah, so that's what polygenic inheritance does for us. Yes.
Could there be incomplete dominance with these polygenic inheritance things?
No.
It's not blending.
It's not blending. It's a result of more than one gene. So think of incomplete dominance as this. You had red, you had white, and you made pink. So this would be like dark and white making medium brown, right? But we have more than just medium brown. We have all the colors in between.
Oh, okay.
So it's like a whole bunch of different phenotypes. It's not just the 3. All right. Albinism is a mutation that causes lack of skin pigment. So no matter what your genes say your skin color is supposed to be, if you are albino, you have a recessive trait that says don't express any pigment. I actually have a cousin. Both of her parents are African American. I mean, dark parents. And she's albino. Wow. So she's super, super white hair, pink eyes, like she has no pigment in her hair at all. And but she still has dark features. Like she's got, kind of big lips, and her hair is the texture of African American hair, but it's white.
That's cool.
Yeah, she's pretty.
Wait, is that the whole epistasis thing?
This is not considered epistatic, I don't think. This is just a mutation that causes you not to be able to make the pigment that you were supposed to be making. All right, so keep going. There's the enzyme that makes the melanin. You don't have it if you're albino. Moving on. Here's some more albino pictures. Sex-linked traits. Do you guys know what we call the chromosomes that are not the 23rd pair of chromosomes? Autosomes. And then what do we call the 23rd pair? Sex chromosomes. Good. So this guy, Thomas Hunt Morgan, he's one of the scientists you have to know, T.H. Morgan. He was studying fruit flies. And he was breeding these fruit flies, and he noticed that fruit flies had red eyes or white eyes. And he was crossing them, and he was thinking that red should be dominant to white, right? But when he'd crossed them, he wasn't getting Mendelian ratios. So it wasn't holding true. The Punnett square wasn't working when he would cross these flies. So he figured out that something else was going on, and he noticed that it mattered whether or not you were male or female. So Thomas Hunt Morgan is the guy who discovered sex-linked traits. So sex-linked traits are traits that are found on that last pair of chromosomes, the 23rd pair, which are your sex chromosomes. And here's what happened. He's got a red-eyed female and a white-eyed male. They're the flies. and he crossed them. And when he crossed them, all of the offspring had red eyes, whether it was a boy or a girl. So this makes you think it's dominant recessive, right? Well, red must just be dominant over white. But when he crossed these two, all of the females had red eyes, and half of the males had red eyes, and half of the males had white eyes. So in order to figure this out, you're going to need to set up a Punnett square. I will tell you the regular Punnett square does not work for this cross because it's a sex-linked trait. So let's set up and see. So we got a red-eyed female and a white-eyed male. So females, what is their chromosomes? XX. And we're going to say that red is dominant. So she's red-eyed. So the way we write it is like this. Do you remember this from 9th grade year?
Yeah, but I never understood it.
All right. So we're saying that she has 2 X chromosomes, and both of them carry the dominant trait to make red eyes. All right. We're going to cross her to a white-eyed male. Now, here's the thing about sex-linked traits. The X chromosome carries the trait. The Y chromosome does not. So always. The Y chromosome does not have the gene on it. So this guy over here is X, and what letter should he have next to his X? A big R or a little r? Little r because he has white eyes, okay? And he's got a Y because it's a guy. And then we're not going to put anything right here. We're not going to put a letter here because nothing goes there because the Y chromosome does not have the gene.
Oh, true.
All right? So if you fill in this Punnett square, you got to use the X's and the R's. You can't just use the R's because it matters whether it's a boy or girl. See if you get what I get. All right. Did any of those flies get red eyes? I mean white eyes?
Oh,
no, 100%. So that's correct. That's what this first generation is showing us right here. 100% of these flies have red eyes. Now, they crossed one male and one female from this offspring. So let's do that cross real quick. Do it on your paper.
So this would be F2, right?
Yeah, we're going to make the F2. So we're going to take 2 from our box that we just made. So a female, and she's now considered a carrier because all the females in the first generation have the little r. And we're going to cross her with one of the guys, and the guys all have red eyes. They're normal. Alright, this is a normal female, this is a carrier female, this is a red-eyed male, and this one right here, that's a white-eyed male. Alright, if you're looking at a pedigree chart, a pedigree is like one of those squares and circles, and they're filled in and stuff, and you have to figure out what they are. You know it's a sex-linked trait when males get it from their mothers.
Can you say that again?
You know it's a sex-linked trait when males get it from their mothers. Males can only get sex-linked trait from their mom because what do they get from their dad? The Y, right? So which has nothing on it. So the only thing they can get from their mom, the only way they can get the trait is to get it from their mother. Can fathers pass it on to daughters? Yes, because if the dad has it, he can give that X to a daughter, right? And if the mom is a carrier, they could have a daughter that has it. It's less likely, but it's possible. Okay, let's keep moving. Here we go, the cross. We just did it. Except I want you to use X's and Y's when you do it. Like this. Yeah. Here they are. And bam. Questions on that? Sex-linked traits? Almost done. There is a gene on the Y chromosome that IB has asked that you know. It's called the SRY gene. The SRY gene is a gene that helps the development, causes the development of testes in embryonic development. Yes. Cause embryonic development of testes in males. But testes will not develop unless you have this SRY gene. The SRY gene can also cause production of testosterone and other traits that lead to a male. Most sex-linked traits, by the way, the SRY gene that causes the development of male genitalia during embryonic stages, that's the only one that you have to know about the Y chromosome. All the other sex-linked traits are on the X chromosome. Hemophilia, male pattern baldness. I think we're going to go over a couple of those here. X-linked. Okay, there's hemophilia. Huh? Yes, we are definitely at fault. Hemophilia. Women can get it, but to get it, their dad has to have it, and their mom has to be at least a carrier. Unless you're a... Okay, X inactivation is not in your IB curriculum. It's interesting, but here's what happens with this. I'm just going to mention it. Have you ever seen a calico cat?
Yes.
So, in cats, there's two genes. One for making black fur and one for making orange fur, right? So what happens is they're all in the X chromosome, but you can only have one or the other. And in every cell in that cat, they turn off one of the X chromosomes. And it's randomly selected. So whichever X is turned off and whichever one is left on is the color that fur from that cell grows. So they have some where the orange is turned off and some where the black is turned off. And so it makes the orange and the black spots on the cat.
But why do they happen to be in like spots and not speckled?
Probably because those cells all like divided from each other.
Oh yeah.
Maybe. But like I said, X inactivation, not on your IB curriculum. Sex influence traits, male pattern baldness. Environment, they do want you to know that environment can affect your gene expression. And then the example I gave you for that would be if you go out in the sun hits your skin and changes your gene expression and causes you to make more melanin. Sunlight causes the production of melanin, and when you produce melanin, you get darker, right? So then your skin color changes. These foxes they have up here in the picture, in the cold weather, their gene expression changes and their fur turns white so that they can blend in better. And then in the summer, the warm temperatures cause their fur to turn brown. And that is the end.